welcome back. You're watching Trading Day. Commercial restaurant and kitchen equipment provider Silver Chef is taking on climate change. The company is embarking on a roadshow in Sydney to promote the divestment from fossil fuels and a reinvestment into clean energy. For more, Silver Chef founder Allan joins us live from our Sydney CBD studio. Allan, welcome back. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Now, you've recently been on a roadshow to become a certified B Corporation, which you've now achieved. For those who may not know, can you give us a bit of an understanding of exactly what that is?
Yes, B Corporations are a movement around the world. There's currently 1,414 companies that are in 41 different countries, and they go through an accreditation process that looks at the way that they operate in business with their work practices, their social and environmental sustainability practices, ethical investments, and looking at social purpose. So the basic theme is to be the best in the world at whatever you do, but also to be best for the world. So that's the lens, and that applies to organisations and investors who are looking to invest in ethical companies, or those that are in the impact investing space. It's quite an attractive option for them to be able to see companies exploring the space.
And Allan, as I understand it, this is a global movement. It's not just here in Australia, it's a global community. Why is it important?
I think it's really important for a number of reasons. I think that particularly from a business perspective, to be able to have a wider social purpose connected to businesses is a part of the future. This is driven largely by employees. So the young Gen Ys that are coming through into the business world these days want it all. They want to be able to have a career, they want to be able to make good money, but they also want to have a sense that they're making a difference in the world. So organisations that can have a social purpose aligned to their business model will attract the right sort of talent coming into their organisations, and of course in the future, is just as much as it is today, getting the right talent around you is vitally important.
And from your perspective as a founder and as a CEO, what are the advantages or benefits for Silver Chef and its shareholders by walking this path to B Corp certification?
Yeah, well, what we've found is that our largest shareholder is a foundation, so therefore we've always had a message in our business with our staff and our customers that the more successful the business becomes, the more social good that we can create in our communities. So we've always had a very strong values alignment. And what that's meant is that we've been able to engage our staff and our customers in greater participation in the success of the organisation going forward. And most importantly, that we can not only deliver social good, but we also can deliver great returns for our shareholders. We've had a strong track record of financial performance so that people can know that they can invest in a company that is doing well financially, but can also do well in their communities and hold sustainable social good.
Tell us about the growth of B Corps as well. Is this something that's becoming more common? How many of them are there out there?
Excuse me. There's about 60 odd in Australia, but it's very early days in Australia. We've only been going, B Corp's been going about 18 months in Australia. And, excuse me, I just need to take a sip of water. So around the world, the numbers are growing significantly. The attraction to be able to have an external accreditation process that looks at that you actually are demonstrating to a third party that you are abiding by the goals and aspirations of the B corporations. So many often you see websites which have got a quick line on the website saying we do good in the world or we are environmentally friendly, but unless you're externally recognised and go through this arduous accreditation process, there's no real step there that can actually tell the investment community and customers, of course, that you're fair dinkum. The process goes through, took us about 4 months to get through that process. For every 100 companies that apply, only 10 get up. So it's quite a rigorous process, and that's important to hold its quality for companies to participate.
And in terms of marks, is this the only stamp, as you put it, of its kind?
It's the only one that I'm aware of. No doubt there may be others that I'm not aware of, but certainly it's the one that's growing the strongest momentum, I suppose. I think it comes about from organisations that are knowing that the wider we have our lens of how we see the world and interact with our communities is becoming more and more important. How do we attract like-minded people into a space that will hold some unity, but also having a greater awareness of B corporations coming forward? I think there is a strong movement from the impact investing space where investors are now choosing to invest in companies that can demonstrate social good or have strong environmental policy. So there's a growing movement of demand for these types of companies to stand up and be accounted for. So if people go through the B Corporation process, then it means they've got a stamp from an external authority that says that they've looked at those practices, and of course you go through a renewal process every 2 years, so it's a way of keeping you on that journey to ensure that you maintain your accreditation. And so it gives the investment community a lens to look at companies that going forward to ensure that they're backing the sort of organisation that matches their own personal values of how they see the world.
And Allan, you're very vocal on these issues. It's something very passionate about. I know we have spoken about this plea in the past. You've transferred a significant portion of the business to the English Family Foundation, which is now the single biggest shareholder in Silver Chef. Can you tell us a bit more about the foundation and what its aims are?
Well, certainly the foundation is a very large piece of what makes me tick as a CEO. I think that if we can have goals and ambitions about creating social good in the world, then it gives a certain power and motivation to be able to attract each day to be the best that we could be. The foundation itself has 50% of its funding goes into poverty alleviation programs overseas, so we're largely microfinance, where we lend a $200 donation goes to fund a small loan to a woman in a developing country to start a small business and move themselves out of poverty. Very successful poverty alleviation program, long history of proven performance. In Australia, I'm much more interested about social entrepreneurship. This is where you get young, talented people who are coming into creating businesses where they give at least 50% of their profits back to a community cause. This is once again largely in that Generation Y space, which is where they're young, passionate, want to change the world. And I like to invest in infrastructure programs that provide stability in education. For example, the School of Social Entrepreneurs, which runs educational programs to be able to help entrepreneurs to become more effective and efficient at delivering a business outcome aligned to social good. The other one is the funding network. So the funding network is a network where people donate support up to $10,000 in those early stage entrepreneurs to give them that kick to the next stage along the journey. A very exciting space, very satisfying, and you see some real big transformational changes going forward. Government, of course, is has less capacity to pay into the community sector. Corporate philanthropy is rather flat. Foundations themselves are a very small part of the equation. So to bring about real social change in the world, we need to have these social entrepreneurs building enterprises that can affect positive outcomes.
Can the government do more to support these kinds of initiatives?
I would like to think so. There's some real interest in developing up social impact bonds and a number of other initiatives, which is really encouraging to see. I think the reality is, though, that there's people don't like to pay more taxes. So government have got a certain amount of capital that they can spend into the community sector, and that means that they're largely in crisis mode of trying to resolve it when it gets to a crisis. Where you talk about the social entrepreneurship movement in the community sector is about the preventable space, the space where you can make a difference before it becomes a crisis. So that's why it plays such an important part.
Tell us about the Invest, Divest pledge. What is it?
Well, really, that was a decision we made in the foundation, that if our total reason for being is to bring about social good in our communities, the fossil fuel industry doesn't align to that purpose. Purely from a commercial reason, though, I mean, you've got some of the best brains in the world that are actively out there finding solutions to energy other than fossil fuels. So why would you want to back the best brains in the world? So I just think commercially it makes sense to look at other investments that are going to encourage alternatives to fossil fuels, and that's why I don't invest in fossil fuels. So
do you think more companies should be, taking the lead in this space, divesting from fossil fuels and reinvesting into more sustainable types of energy?
Well, there's a great momentum that's happening around the world today through this Divest Invest program. I even heard yesterday that Leonardo DiCaprio has signed off his foundation to make sure he doesn't invest in fossil fuels. So there is quite a movement happening around the world in this space. It just brings up to a higher alert about the general community's requirements, and what they want is more environmental sustainable outcomes. And business has got to hear what the community needs and starts investing in spaces that's going to develop those solutions.
And I guess just branching out a little further, Pope Francis overnight saying we're at a pretty critical stage when it comes to climate change and something really needs to be done now. And then you also contrast that with the former Prime Minister, Tony Abbott, who's still questioning climate change. How do you react and respond to these leaders who have a very different take on it? Why is there such a strong divergence of views here in Australia?
Yeah, well, without being too harsh on Tony Abbott, I think he's very, very much in the minority. If you have a look at the collective conversation that you have around the barbecue and in the general community, people are looking for better solutions than what we currently have. The movement of the roofs of Australia are now full of solar panels. These are individuals making steps and making a statement about what they see they want the future sustainability to look like. So the solar industry is booming. You know, they are very clear signals to our politicians that they need to wake up and start taking a stance on some of these tougher issues and move Australia forward that truly reflects what the community wants.
Alan, we'll leave it there. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Good day. Enjoyed it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Time for a quick break here on Trading Day. When we come back, BHP's Australian franking credits coming under fire as the company aims to fund its progressive dividend policy. Live insights next.
All eyes are on you. But they always are when you're fighting to be number one. You know that if you create the right environment, you'll have what it takes to